The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series.
Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to a Dino Fury video. That light was, what we call rude. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to a Dino Fury video that I said I wasn't going to make. Yes, I said that I was done making videos about Dino Fury before the show's premiere, but I wasn't expecting to have anything else to talk about. But indeed, I do. The geek sites that cover this lovely little world of ours have clued into the fact that there's a brand new season of Power Rangers about to begin, and executive producer Simon Bennett has been making the rounds, as it were. Bennett himself tweeted out a link Friday night US time to an interview he did with SyFy Wire about the show. It is a fascinating piece because it not only speaks directly to the writing and intended audience of the show, but sheds an amazing light on why Power Rangers has been the way it's been over the past few seasons. So let's take a look at a few interesting chunks from SyFy Wire's interview with Simon Bennett.
Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel.
Yeah, and make sure you got your notifications set up by hitting that little bell icon.
Right you. What he said was, you can consider checking us out on Patreon or Ko-fi at Orange Ranger Videos.
Almost right off the bat in the interview, we've got gold. I've been in something of an ongoing debate in the YouTube comments of some of my videos about the target audience for Dino Fury. I have seen Bennett say in several places that yes, Dino Fury is a kid's show, but they're going to be throwing in some elements for the adults. But apparently, Bennett did an interview with the Illuminati where, I'll be generous here, apparently he sounded rather disinterested in the adult audience, focused solely on writing the show for kids. We're trying to, mainly for the adult fans, inject more serial threads for our characters and villains this time around. That can provide intrigue and suspense and allows us to use cliffhanger devices. It keeps people guessing. If every episode wraps up the story tidily, there's not much telling about what's going to happen next. With Dino Fury, we've deliberately worked to inject more of that into the season. I mean, I don't think it gets any more direct than doing something mainly for the adult fans, now does it? Look at it this way. For the little kids that are, apparently, the show's target audience, the plot doesn't really matter anyway. Bright colors, explosions, fighting. So why not have multi-episode arcs for the older fans? I think we can expect more, maybe not distinctly multi-part episodes, part 1, part 2, part 3, but story arcs that stretch over several. The next major point in the interview is the only one that I pretty strongly disagree with. Bennett was asked about the process of selecting seasons for adaptation, especially about how the writing staff was still writing Dino Fury as Ryusoulger was still airing. Basically, the question was about how those seasons are chosen, because in the past, they've been able to choose Sentai where they knew the entire story going into it. That's when Bennett said this. There are culturally specific things about Sentai that may not translate so easily to an American audience. For instance, dinosaurs are universally popular with 4 to 6-year-olds, whereas trains? Not quite as much as dinosaurs. So, I was having a chat with my friends Thomas the Tank Engine and the Polar Express, and they were a little bit annoyed with the ongoing idea that trains are not popular with American children. Listen, I think I get what Bennett was trying to say, basically the idea that dinosaurs are more popular than trains, and thus that's why Ryusoulger was chosen over ToQger. The thing is, this attitude predates Ryusoulger. You're telling me trains aren't as popular as animal-themed vehicle special agents? I have zero doubt that Bennett could make a compelling season that would sell a whole bunch of toys for Power Rangers out of ToQger. Then we get to a rather disturbing part of the interview. Bennett was asked about the older adult audience, specifically if he feels any less pressure to include elements in Dino Fury for the adult audience, since the adults have the Boom Studios comic books to scratch that itch. I obviously would like for everyone who watches the show to love it. I don't like the show being hated. I don't like knowing that the writers get hate mail or death threats. Everyone is trying to make a show that as many people as possible will enjoy. Writers get hate mail or death threats.
Writers get hate mail or death threats.
Excuse me, the f did you just say?
Death threats? For Zordon's sake. Listen, I am a 38-year-old man who has liked Power Rangers since I was 11 years old, save for about a 6-year chunk around college. So I've been a Power Rangers fan for over 20 years of my life. I have dedicated a large chunk of my free time to reviewing Power Rangers, going to rather surprising lengths sometimes to get videos posted. So think about what these words mean coming from me. It is just a TV show. There are seasons of Power Rangers that I've hated. There are seasons that I have felt disrespected by as a fan of the franchise. Seasons that I felt absolutely flew in the face of what the franchise is supposed to represent. It is just a TV show. The writers are trying their best. I may sometimes feel that they have utterly failed in representing the franchise, but it's not worth death threats. It's not even worth general hate mail. Say your piece on the internet. I obviously do. And do not hold to a defense of, it's not a serious death threat, it's just scaring them as a form of punishment. That doesn't make it better.
Hey man, Will Wheaton says, don't be a dick.
The next part was really the most fascinating to me, just really eye-opening about why the show has been the way it's been the past few years. I enjoyed Beast Morphers, but when I hear some people say that the show has gotten too formulaic lately, I understand that. I coined, or at least co-opted, the term moral of the day for Power Rangers Ninja Steel, and an image of me using that graphic was included in a listicle about Ninja Steel's issues, which was kind of neat. Turns out there was a reason that Neo Saban Power Rangers felt so formulaic. When he, Haim Saban, came back to the franchise halfway through a series, likely referring to Saban's return to Dino Supercharge after the 2017 movie, he felt the show wasn't hitting the right notes in order to capture the younger audience. The requirements became very specific. It had to tick a number of boxes. There had to be a strong moral core, a lesson, there had to be a moving scene full of heart, and there had to be 2 ground fights and a Megazord fight every episode. And there could be no serial threads. He believed very strongly that every episode had to work as a standalone. The only linked episodes that were allowed were 2-part finales or maybe an episode 1 and 2 of a season.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
That is, in my humble opinion, a terrible way to write episodes of a television show. Systems like that can work. I remember famed TV producer John Rogers saying on an episode of Tabletop, where they played Fiasco's RPG system, that they used that system to write episodes of the TV show Leverage. But Fiasco scripts the very basic elements of a story, the characters, the conflict, the problems, etc. That type of system doesn't say that episodes have to be character problem, fight, moral lesson, fight, heartfelt apology. You can even see that formula at work in Beast Morphers, and it's just so cookie cutter. I feel so bad for the writers. That had to be so creatively stifling not to be able to experiment with the formula even from time to time. I'm sure it made the workday go faster though. Conflict, moral lesson, apology, lunch! But it gets even better. The other thing he was keen on was the idea of the comedy duo, which harked back to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It's why both Ninja Steel and Beast Morphers had the comedy duo characters. They had to use a big pinch of slapstick because that sort of broad physical comedy appeals to younger viewers. So those are some of the rules the writers had to write.
Why?
If you're wondering why I didn't use the anger cutaway or I'm not screaming and frothing right now, it's because for the most part I knew this already. Chip Lynn talked about Saban's insistence on comedy in Power Rangers at Power Morphicon 2018. It is still just really frustrating though, just another aspect of that cookie cutter formula. It makes me feel so bad for the actors who played Ben and Betty. Okay, to a lesser extent, also the actors who played Victor and Monty, but I saw less potential in those characters than I did in Ben and Betty, who I thought could have been something really cool. Okay, well, what is there to believe in? What is there to hope for? Dino Fury's clearly going to be another set of seasons that feel incredibly formulaic, exactly like Beast Morphers. You're going to have the simple moral conflict, 2 ground fights and a Zord fight, 30 back to 10. Why even bother watching? Having said that, I think that those kind of mandates have eased off with Dino Fury. We're able to do a lot more that I believe will appeal to the adult audience while maintaining the engagement of younger viewers. For example, we've been able to share the comedy around. There isn't a designated comedy character who will annoy the audience and distract from the Rangers' story. There's now comedy in the villains or the Rangers. It's all shared around. And it's comedy played more through character or dialogue rather than elaborate gag sequences. We've been encouraged to do that, and I've really embraced it. It means we can be less predictable.
Yes! That's awesome!
That is right, a triple cutaway. Those words deserved no less. That is exactly what I have been begging for like the past 4 to 6 years. I will add a small clarification to it though. I tweeted my thoughts on the interview immediately after reading it, and Simon Bennett himself replied to me to clarify one little thing. There are going to be comedic characters in Dino Fury. They're not just going to be a duo that handles the comedy all the time. So instead of a comedy duo that annoys us, maybe we'll get a character in one episode or 1 or 2 that's just there to be a goofball.
Well, that settles that.
And perhaps even more than that, comedy based on character and dialogue versus elaborate slapstick gags. There were things happening to Ben and Betty and Victor and Monty that made the show feel like a cartoon. And before anyone says that's what Power Rangers is, a live-action cartoon, the appeal of a show like Power Rangers is rendering incredibly bombastic action into the real world so the show feels like reality. That immersion is shattered when Victor falls from 70 feet in the air and is perfectly fine the next day. There's something from that where I'm reading between the lines, but I don't think Bennett is going to say the words, so I'm going to. You'll notice that he said that Saban had a very specific formula, a checklist that had to be filled out. Now they're being encouraged to play it more fast and loose, but he never says by who. I think it's clearly the removal of Saban's influence over the show, the handing over of the reins to Entertainment One. Haim Saban is listed as an executive producer in Dino Fury's credits, but by now I think the title is just honorary, the same way that Hasbro CEO Brian Goldner gets an executive producer credit.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Multiple preview clips for the first episode of Dino Fury were released on Twitter by the Power Rangers account and Nickelodeon, and there's a really great vibe to them. We see Ollie and Amelia in what I think is the spaceship-like base, confronting Void Knight, who has a really cool voice, meeting the dinosaur creature, who it turns out is an old woman. There's non-Ranger heroics. Void Knight uses Ranger keys just like the Rangers do. The grunts are called Hengemen, Dinohenge, henchmen. That is a Toei level pun. Combo all of that with this, and suddenly I am way more hyped. It would be literally impossible for me to do another Dino Fury video before the show airs. I'm going to try and get this posted just before the episode airs at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Hopefully you're watching this video with a cup of coffee, waking up and getting ready for the big premiere. Which means this is the last Dino Fury preview video. Thank you all so much as always for watching. Down in the comments below, let me know if you read this interview, what you think of what Bennett said. Even if you're watching this video after the first episode is aired, how did the first episode affect your thoughts about what Bennett said? Let me know that down in the comments below. While you're down there, make sure you smack that thumbs up button. Let me know that you enjoyed this video. I think we're finally ready for Destination Dinohenge, heroes. Until next time, may the power protect you. Bennett himself tweeted out a link on Friday night US time with a... Bennett himself tweeted out a link Friday night... Bennett himself tweeted out a link about the upcoming season of Power Rangers. That's just when I just keep talking because I don't have it. I mean, I don't think it gets much more... I don't think it gets much more direct than doing... Fuck. That was pho, by the way. Look at it this way. I don't think it gets farts. Since in the past, Sentai season... Oh, the heater. There are seasons of Power Rangers that I felt disrespected by as a fan of the franchise. That they used the Fiasco system to script episodes of the show they used. That's the kind of thing that just sticks in the back of my brain. Obviously, Dino Fury is going to be 2 more formulaic seasons. I don't know what they're about, though. We are able to do a lot more than I think that's supposed to be that, I believe. We are able to do a lot more that I believe will appeal to the adult... Things that happened to Ben and Betty and Victor and Monty shattered that immersion by making the show feel like a cartoon. That was ad-libbed and, I want to do it again. There's non-Ranger heroics, which I always love. Multiple preview clips for the first episode were released by Power Rangers on Twitter and Nickelodeon on Twitter today. And, yep.